Alright, I have some hardware bolt questions, and hopefully some of my friends or internet friends or RX-7 Club people can help with some answers here. So this factory bolt for the rear suspension, can't buy this anymore from Mazda. So I went looking for replacements, and I found some that I think are very close, but they're not quite exact. In terms of the diameter and the overall length, they're very close, same wrench. I think it's the same rating. This one, original one, said 10, class 10, and I assume that's JIS, Japanese. And this one says, ooh, can it see? This one's pretty shiny, but it says 10.9, which as far as I can tell, that's about the modern day equivalent of that. The original one was from a 94 car, so it's like early 90s or maybe late 80s specs. This thing is nickel plated or cat plated or whatever, so I trust that the bolt itself is okay, but the thread length is different. And when I put it on the car and marked where it would go, the first mark is the inside of the bracket, and the second mark is where the nut would end up kind of threading on, more or less, too. So there is more if you did that same exercise with the other one. There's a bit more shoulder and a bit less threaded area to kind of keep it aligned, and I don't know how much that matters. These are going on the these are going on the rear suspension. They hold the control arm to the hub, so it's the one that would go in here. It would go in here, and then it ends up, well, you know, there's brackets or whatever, so it ends up sort of clamping here-ish. Oh, I can move the camera to show exactly where it goes on the car. Let's see if I can move it to show it on the car. Okay, it goes in here. So with the original one, can the camera see that? There we go. So with the original one, you end up going in here, and you have, right, that's that first line. And then on the other side, it's hard to do this and watch the camera at the same time. And on the other side, you end up approximately there in terms of how many threads you're engaging past the shoulder. So I'd say you've got a good that much distance, and it's mostly shoulder and not a lot of thread, versus the other one that I found, it would end up about here. So it's still some shoulder. It's not zero shoulder, but it's not nearly as much, and it's quite a bit more thread than shoulder. And I'm wondering if that's a problem because of the diameters, the threads and the shoulders is different. Now I did space this out to get it to so I can reinstall this easily. I did space one of these little things out, so it's actually probably a small fraction of an inch different, but that's what I'm looking at and wondering how critical that is. Oops. And one of the part of me thinks that it might not matter at all, and the reason for that is if I look at these camber adjustment bolts, they have a lot of thread that's doing the engagement, and the shoulder isn't doing really anything. So for instance, these camber adjustment bolts, they go, can you see that, camera? They go in here, right, and there's not not even a little bit of shoulder happening there. It's all thread that it's doing. So maybe the thread is not a problem because that's how the other side is done, and that's the factory bolt. Like, I didn't change that. That's how Mazda did it. And not only is it got the threads, but it's got that little D shape removed out of it. So maybe most of the work gets done via clamping and not via, like, the threads aren't locating like a dowel, they're just, you know, clamping. If that's the case, then I think this is a nice new bolt that's probably as strong or stronger. And it certainly hasn't seen, you know, 30 years of rust. So hopefully somebody who knows more about hardware than I do can chime in with that. I found the other one, you know, the other size as well. And that one is almost an exact match. So I'm not worried about that one even a little. But yeah, RX-7 rear suspension hardware question. Hopefully somebody can chime in.